Now everything is computerized. From day one, the students are given the computers to do their assignments, and everything is become digitalized and electronic and things like that. It's a good thing, and we have also adapted to that change professionally now. And until and unless you adapt to changes, you cannot really live with the times. That's one thing I have learned over the years.
Hello, I'm Nidheesh Tyagi from Abir. We are doing this special Abir Samvaad at Jaquar, this time from Guwahati as an offline initiative in partnership with Jaquar. This is important because so far we have been doing online Samvaad with leading architects, and now we are going offline, and especially because we are interested in tier 2 and tier 3 emerging India. So Guwahati has been our first destination, which is probably most distant from Ahmedabad and Delhi, where I kind of live. Our very special guest today is Mr. Amitabh Sarma. He's a principal architect of his own firm. He has been working here for about 20, more than 20 years?
Yes, now it will be around 25
more than 20 years. Yeah. So, and then he has been working for, I think, all kinds of infrastructure changes which are happening in this part of the country, which includes sports facilities, hospitals, hotels, schools, residential complexes, and public projects. Welcome, Mr. Sharma, and we would like you to kind of hear from you about your journey so far. You were in JJ, and then you were working in Mumbai.
Yes.
And then something brought you back to your roots, and then you settled here then again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I mean, my graduation was from Sir JJ College of Architecture, Mumbai. It was way back in 1996. After my graduation, I wanted to stay back there and learn the profession, learn the tricks of the trade rather. And I joined one of the persons whom I admired the most at that point of time, Mr. Kharegat, Mr. Temas Kharegat. I always used to admire his buildings whenever I used to travel from my hostel to my college, all the buildings that he used to do. And every time I look at his buildings, I used to say to myself that one day I'm going to join his office. So that was my determination that took me to his place. It took me some kind of cajoling and convincing for Kharegat to take me up in his office, because he was already full that time. So it was, I would say, 2 to 3 years of excellent experience in terms of architectural exposure, in terms of work experience. I would say a wholesome work experience that an architect always go through. We handled projects, we were just out of college, fresh out of college. Now when you see a fresh graduate in any office for that matter, you were like an intern, but we were never treated like interns in that office. It was just a small office of 6 to 7 people, and you would be amazed to know that we used to handle projects of big magnitudes. We had clients like the IIT, we had clients like the Rahejas, we had clients like Great Eastern Shipping, Govani Builders, huge projects, Tata Housing, you name it. And it was a small office. And my idol was this man who would sit at the end of the office in one small table, look at the stock exchange building every time. And morning hours, of course, he would spend in all his assessment of stocks and everything. And second half, he would always be there with us to share his stories and other things. He was one jolly fellow. He used to whistle throughout the day. And he made architecture look very simple to us. Whenever we were stressed out for any design assignment, so he used to call us like a father figure, and he used to explain it to us. You see, son, this is so simple. You are just stressing out yourself for nothing. So this is how you are supposed to do it. And it was like, after he tells you that, it was like, why we were all stressed up all the time. It was nothing. It was really nothing. And that was one way of looking at things which really inspired us, which really pushed us to do things which we, at that point of time, we thought we could never do. So it was a wonderful experience. I can go on narrating stories after stories.
So what brought you back to Guwahati?
See, Mumbai as a place, I would say, sometimes you want to relate yourself to the place that you stay. Mumbai as a place I could never relate to because it was so crowded. First of all, you feel lost. Morning you come out, you are with 1 million people coming out of the trains, and again getting into an office, coming back again you are walking with 1 million people and getting inside a train. So somehow, I don't know, that was my formative period, so probably it was too early to judge things. But then I had a feeling it was not the place for me. I am not for this mad rush of things. So I need some place where I can relate to, where I can work for myself, where I can think for myself and really realize the person who I am. So then I thought, what better place than my own place, my birthplace.
But
people
then
knows me here.
One was that your father was like also a government servant, and you went to a professional course. Starting your own practice at a kind of youngish kind of an age would have been quite a risk. So how did you navigate that change, like becoming an entrepreneur yourself in terms of starting your own practice?
Yeah, that was the most challenging part. The moment I came back here, I made a point to engage myself with one of the established architects here, Mr. Gautam Borwa. He was already an established, he had an established practice already thriving here. So I thought instead of trying to, because that time Guwahati did not have too much of work, to be very honest. Guwahati or the entire Northeast for that matter, it was just growing at that point of time. So I thought it would be a wise decision to join somebody, learn the place, learn how the works. I have learned how works are done in Mumbai for 2 years. So let me just learn how things are done here first. So I joined him for a couple of years. I learned a lot of things from him. I saw that there is a huge difference in the way of working. When I was working in Mumbai and when I came back to Guwahati. The difference, first of all, was there was a big cultural difference. The work culture, for that matter. In Bombay, I would say it is 10 times faster than how works are done here. So first of all, it was a big adjustment for me to adjust to that kind of pace. Then the kind of craftsmanship or the kind of quality of work or workmanship that you would see, that is the big difference. So in terms of workmanship, I could understand that there was a lot of, it lacked a lot of infrastructural support and things like that, and you don't have the right kind of skill set and the right skilled persons to undertake all the works that we wanted to do. So initially I thought I made a wrong decision of coming back to this place, because somehow I felt I was like, suddenly I was like stopped. I stopped walking, I even stopped walking, and I was like a still person. So it took me a while to get into the fold of things. Then I started learning. 2 or 3 years down the line, I started my own practice in 2002. It's called Akar. That was a partnership firm. Now it's called Akar Foundation. So there, slowly we started taking up projects. My father, as you said rightly, he is from that service background. So he's always used to say, finally, what is your plan? What are your plans finally? Because finally you have to start something on your own. So I said, definitely I have to start, because this is a profession where I cannot expect myself to be engaged somewhere where I cannot express myself for the rest of my life. So I need some place where I can really express myself, where my work speaks for itself. So he said, "Ki then better late than never. I mean, you start off immediately." Then that's how I started. In 2002, I started my practice officially, and it started off slowly, but then now, by the grace of God, everything is in place, and we have almost, I would say, 20 years of practice behind us. And initially, of course, there were a lot of hiccups. Projects were very slow to come by. But if you remember, in the early 2000s, there was a big real estate boom, nationally, I would say, which had its repercussion here. It trickled down here to the northeastern part also. This part also had its fair share of development. And we were fortunate enough to start our practice at the same point of time.
So, Amitabh, you're also a witness to this whole, change in last 25 years, which you are talking about. So, if you like squeeze it into a time lapse kind of a video, or in your mind, and then paraphrase it to us that how fast and how things have changed, and because what I want to hear is about more about this change in this this non-metropolitan India, that how things change so fast that and then the internet came, and then the housing came, and then suddenly the jobs came. So there's a whole big emancipation, aspiration, all that is probably happening and that's happening far more at a greater speed than it's happening in metropolitan cities. So in a way, I think you're good that you were in Mumbai and then you moved to a place which was like
Yes.
growing very fast, and if you keep that speed, then probably you also like reap the rewards out of that. So how do you paraphrase this change as the whole rapidly moving, changing the landscape of infrastructure
Yes.
and architecture and,
Yes,
and
yes.
real estate?
I think I was fortunate, or rather, our generation was fortunate enough to get the best of both worlds. When we were in college, there was just one single computer in the college. So, computerization wasn't there. We learned architecture the hard way, the manual way, where we used to do things with our hands. Now, everything is computerized. From day one, the students are given the computers to do their assignments, and everything is become digitalized and electronic and things like that. It's a good thing, and we have also adapted to that change professionally now. And until and unless you adapt to changes, you cannot really live with the times. That's one thing I have learned over the years. I still remember when I came back here in Guwahati, and I was very efficient at handling the computer and working in computers, and people here, most of the offices did not have computers here in the first place. There would be one computer in an office of 20 people, and the person who is using the computer, he was like the king. So that was the kind of situation we had been through, and we were very fortunate to start off to be at the starting point of that revolution. Every change, every technological innovation, you have to see, just like social media or any other innovation for that matter, has its positives and negatives. So we have to pick the positives from everything. We have picked up the positive aspects of all these innovations. Computer CAD designs, for that matter, computer aided designs. Now with all the BIM technologies and things like that, it has gone to another level. So it will keep on improving now with AI and whatnot. I mean, 3D printing and everything, it is going to a different level altogether. So we have to really embrace ourselves. We have to brace ourselves for this kind of change. We have to adapt to this kind of change, because I still remember one line from that book from Mr. Alvin Toffler. I don't know if you have read that book. It's called The Future Shock.
Yeah.
The only constant is the change.
Yeah.
And it is not only the change that troubles you, it is the rate of change that troubles you, which is exponential. And we have to really adapt ourselves to this kind of changes, and we are happy to say that we would love to get along with this space.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about this whole philosophy of your design, that how do you approach between from the idea to the outcome, and of course there's lots of negotiation happening, navigation happening between the client's demand
Yes.
and your own, the creative streak you have, and then so how do you kind of get to get around to leave your
Yes.
signature stamp on it while satisfying the client, and
See, that's a very interesting question that you have put forward. First of all, I'll tell you how we used to deal it when we started off, and then I'll gradually come to how we do it now. It's a sea change. When we started off with our practice, the clients were over us. I wouldn't say we were totally navigated by their demands or requirements. We tried to accommodate to the best of our ability, even that day, even today. But the approach has changed drastically. We always had our thoughts and ideas 20 years ago, even today. It has not changed much in terms of honesty, in terms of credibility, in terms of the willingness to do good work. But as far as the handling of a project is concerned, it has changed drastically. We have understood people's behavior. We have understood the way the client demands from us. We have understood their sensibilities and how to go with, because sensibilities vary from person to person. One person's demand doesn't necessarily be the same as the other. So the way we go about is, the most important part that we think is to understand the person's sensibility. Until and unless you know what he wants, what he is passionate about, what his interests are, what is his background, what is his family background. Say for example, I am doing a house, I am doing a residential which is very personal. You are dealing with the needs of a family. You have to know each and every person of that family. You have to know the background of that family, and you have to really understand the kind of requirements that they have come up with. Until and unless I fit in within his thoughts and feelings, I cannot do justice to his work. I will be doing thousands of designs. I will be doing up to number of revisions and corrections and additions and whatnot, but then I will never reach to his satisfaction. So that is first and foremost thing that we learned over the years. Earlier we were very, we were like maverick kind of designers, where we wanted to show our skills of designs and things like that, without going into the depths of the requirement of the client. So that is very important. First of all, you understand his requirement, and then only you proceed with your approach. Then you also understand the kind of artistic impression or expression that he wants to have on his project, because most of them, they are pre-motivated or premeditated or whatever you want to call that. And as an architect, as a service provider, as a proponent of art and architecture, you have to educate and guide your client as to the right approach. It will take time. He will not accept it. Depending on the nature of the person, it will take 1 month for somebody, it may take 2 months for another person, it may take 1 minute for a third person. So you should not give up. You should try and convince that person that this is the right way, and this is how your project is going to stand out if you follow this set of guidelines, or if you set up. Then there are, of course, legal guidelines and other compliances which we cannot deviate from, and which we do not let our clients deviate from also, and we stick to those as much as possible, and I think there should not be any argument on those things. And then implementation of the project. Once it comes from paper to execution, then you have to implement that project, execute. That's what your client has come to you for, not for drawings, but for execution, for a real living area, for a real space. So for that to happen, you have to get involved with the project. Most of the times I have seen there are architects, there are consultants who simply give drawings, who simply issues workable drawings, but then the involvement at site or involvement in the execution process is not to that extent. It is also then that the project suffers. So we have to keep the client in the fold till the completion of the project, till the project is fit for occupation. So that's the whole process, and that's how we believe I think everybody should approach projects and keep their responsibilities intact.
So one of the things is that how clients have changed over the years. So earlier it was like more of I want to have a house, like more like a picture postcard. And I'm informed, and I got a picture, and I got some. So things, the clients are probably involved, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. They are looking at the experiential thing now rather than just the two-dimensional
Absolutely.
picture they have seen somewhere,
Absolutely,
or the movie they have seen somewhere.
Absolutely.
So how,
So they have, any client for that matter today has come to you after going through all the visual effects, all the visualization of the imaginations that he already has in his mind, and he has come with a lot of aspirations, a lot of expectations, which didn't happen earlier.
Like if I go to doctor now, I have already Googled my disease and the worst possible scenarios, and the doctor says, okay, so do you know more than me now? So how do you deal with that?
What we try to do is, again, we sometimes try to give this example of doctors. That is one way of helping ourselves out. The other way is to make him understand that, internets and platforms give you an idea about the kind of aesthetics or kind of aspirations that you can develop, but then your requirement is your specific. Your family, you cannot relate your family with the family who is next door. You have specific requirements. Your son doesn't talk like the son who is staying next door. So let me design your building as per your requirement. Let me not design your building as per your neighbor's interiors. So it has to be customized. It has to be, if you really want a good house, then it has to be customized. It has to fit in your requirements, your aspirations, and your family's aspirations. So it cannot be built on something which you have already preconceived, or you have already seen it somewhere and you already have an imagination flying. It's good to have that, but then you are only replicating it. So which we try to avoid.
You have done hotels and hospitals, schools, colleges, stadium you have sports facilities.
Yes, sports facilities.
So these are all public spaces. So what do you keep in mind, and how do you so again, these are like one they need to be clearly functionally good for public, and then
when we are dealing with public spaces, it's a very generic kind of question, I would say. When we are dealing in public spaces, there is a different perspective altogether. We are dealing at a different level altogether. If it is sports infrastructure, I have to look into the aim and objectives of the project. Say for example, I am doing a district stadium which is catering to a particular district of say 10 lakh people. So it is for the development of sports of that 10 lakh population. So I have to see which are the sports that particular district excels in, and the boys and the girls of that district should be able to come to this place and excel in those particular sports. So I have to create a facility for those people to come and enhance their lives. So in a way, you have a lot of responsibility at stake. You have a lot of I would say a lot of responsibility in terms of delivery, a lot of responsibility in terms of the spatial requirements that you are going to design. It has to be correct. It should not fail those people.
Yeah.
So you have to think twice, or probably thrice, or maybe number of times before coming to any conclusion or any decision on these kind of projects. So it requires a big teamwork for this kind of projects, and we have to take help of a lot of experts. We as architects are the principal players, but then we take in a lot of expert opinions from different consultants for these kind of projects, and this whole thing is combined as one, and then we try to package it as a successful project.
So in projects like these, and since you are from Assam, and you see that the motifs, and there's a kind of a typical character of the design sensitivity of these places around Assam and around other states. How do you bring those elements into play when you do projects, and at the same time that is sandwiched between the other thing is the whole global aspirations that we want to look like a building which is like the same in Delhi and same in Europe and same in New York?
I do believe with all my heart that any project at any point, any place for that matter, should reflect the ethos, the culture, the traditions of that place. If I am visiting Ahmedabad and I am visiting Motera Stadium, definitely I will look forward to some cultural reflection of that place. If you are visiting a stadium here in Guwahati for that matter, you will expect some cultural reflection, some traditional reflection of that place. Now, everybody has some preconceived ideas about the culture and traditions of a place. So, it is our responsibility as architects to go beyond that and create infrastructure, create a build form which in a subtle way exposes this kind of culture and tradition. Public infrastructure projects, like say for example an airport. The moment you land in any new place, it's the airport. If you have been to Singapore airport, you just see Changi airport. It gives you straight away it takes you to that place you're trying to get into. So, for any other project also for that matter, it should be that it should relate to the people you are designing it for, first of all. It should relate to the cultural ethos of that particular place, and in a way it should encourage people to adopt this kind of attitude for all their build forms. So, there should be a kind of, I would say, in a way, if I want to put it, this is a big opportunity for all architects whenever they get a public project to display this kind of
but do you think this really happens? Because like I'm sure, like you, I have grown up in civil lines of various small towns in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, and the Sarkari quarters and the Sovietness of those buildings of those 70s, 80s. And then now when we are changing, are we like, especially in the public spaces thing, are we really conscious of the fact that, okay, we need to make it, slightly we can afford to make it iconic, and it should last for 20, 30 years and become a statement kind of a building or a structure? Do you see that happening?
See, when you talk about iconic buildings, iconic again is very, very relative term, I would say. Making an iconic building is a statement, of course. We also have some similar projects lined up from the state government. They have a directorate complex which is coming up with trying to make it into an iconic building with twin towers and things like that. But then, at what cost? I'm not talking about only the monetary cost. I'm talking about the cost, the intellectual cost also. Very other day, a person cited a very interesting aspect of the Bird's Nest Stadium which is there in Beijing.
Yeah.
Do you know the maintenance cost of that building? because it's not used every day. It was built for the Olympics, and probably they use it 10 days a month or maybe even less. If you see the maintenance cost of the building, it has already overshot the initial cost of the construction of the building. Long back, almost 5-6
Yes,
years back, it has
it's a
already
flaunt
overshot.
thing. Yeah.
So, how do you justify those kind of things? In a country like India, I wouldn't get into the economics and other things, but then if you put it simply, you can do iconic buildings without being very exuberant,
Yeah.
without going overboard, without stamping on your traditional values and cultural values. There are a lot of ways to do that. So, if you want examples, there are plenty. You've been to Ahmedabad, you've been to.
I lived in Chandigarh, so
Uh-huh.
that's one of the very good examples where
So,
budget was the biggest constraint, and then the city came,
yes,
fitting
you
into that
need,
budget.
you need not be loud in all the cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can still be beautiful.
Yes.
So we come to our Abir Pothi core interest about trying to bridge between or finding a bridge between art and architecture. You have been a painter yourself. You were telling me before interview, and then you probably are not
Not an established one for that
That is,
matter.
you don't
but
know
it-
establish. I mean,
But that was
yeah,
just
but
a hobby
I mean,
kind of thing. Which
But that hobby
developed
would have taken you to
Yes,
this trade, and so. But we were talking about, so we kind of work with lots of young artists. Again, I mean, from regional, vernacular hinterland of this country. Most of them are young and emerging contemporary
My
artists.
mentor was a good painter.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying that how do we, again, the whole notion of, as Ruby was saying, the whole notion is to start giving that aesthetic kind of a pleasure, joy experience in a real structure. And then it's somewhere it probably, gets sidelined or forgotten or dissolved when by the time the execution comes. So, what can we do best to bring art to some kind of, if not in the center of things, to some kind of an importance kind of thing in things we do? Because what we are talking about, bringing that iconic thing without exuberance and cost. One cool thing to do is like bring lots of local artists and regional artists to kind of and bring them to these public and infrastructure spaces.
Art is something which enhances the space that we inhabit, first of all. Buildings give you the requirement satisfaction of space, requirement satisfaction of habitation, and your functional needs. It can satisfy all your functional needs.
Yes.
But art takes you beyond that.
It's both ways. I mean, even so, it's all about space and coordinates both.
Yes.
The art itself and the light which is falling from the window on that art, and if it's changing, then
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to say when I tried to say that art can be used in a very subtle way in our design, so that, as you said, by the end of the project, it gets a little sideline and it takes a different shape and things like those things will never happen, because when it is integrated in the design process, it cannot go in a different direction. It has to move in the same direction. It should be an artistic experience. When you visit houses of people like Hussain, and it is not just a painting on the wall, everything is an art. I mean, even the steps is an art. Even the steps that you put your foot on, that's an art. You have seen the Hussain Doshi Gufa.
Yeah.
What is it?
So a friend of mine went to his London studio, so in my BBC day. So he said that so the electricity button thing, so it was all like, because he was switching on them off and on with his colors, all his fingers were all colored. So even that had become a kind of an artifact, just by because he was using them like with his color, switching them off and on with his color fingers. Anyway, yes, of course. So this is like the functional kind of
And of course, I
experiential
would
of
say the moment you mentioned that, it reminded me that digitization has brought in a different kind of art form again.
yes.
So digitization, of course, again, we are not trying to resist those changes. It will definitely bring in some changes. But then again, we have to be very careful in choosing this kind of.
So, Amitabh, if you want to where to advise, the next generation kind of people who are getting into architecture or design in these days, because you came when you were doing it, there was just one computer, and now everybody's actually kind of carrying a computer in their hands. So, what do you advise them, and what things have changed in your advisory, and what things will remain the same?
The one thing which will remain the same is uh, being honest to your work. First of all, honesty is non-negotiable. First of all, when I say you have to be honest to your work, you have to be you have to go to sleep with the thought that I have done something which is worthwhile. I am doing it for the people who has asked me to do for them. I am not doing it for somebody to just stare and go away.
Yeah.
I am not doing an iconic building for somebody to flash their lights or take a selfie there, stand there for 5 minutes and go away. I am designing for people. Architecture is about people. So if I am not being justice, if I am not being true to their needs, then the first part is failed. So my advice would be that first you see that you are doing justice to the people that you are working for. That is the most important thing, I would say. Whether it is you are working for whatever might be your working medium or whatever might be your working environment. Secondly, in today's times, I believe, as you rightly again pointed out, everything is in your hands. You are carrying your computer in your hands only. Even your mobile phone is a computer for
Yes.
that matter. And you can search and you can send things in the flick of a second. Those things actually make you get carried away at certain times. But then you have to be grounded and you have to see that whatever you create, whatever you send for execution or for generation of some work has been thoroughly scrutinized, because we sometimes go overboard and do things which has a lot of impact on the people that we are working for. So I am very conscious about this part, because a lot of times it has so happened that we have sent drawings at site which has not been properly verified and which has been sent because of the ease of technology, and probably it has got unchecked. So we have to be very careful
Yeah.
with technology, as I said.
Second is, what will you advise, who are the young artists from Assam and Northeast, I mean, to become more relevant to this ecosystem? So there's a clear-cut, I think, challenge between how do we connect artists to this whole emerging, booming, change the real
Northeast
estate.
has its own intrinsic character of art and architecture. If you see, if you go back a little back in history, the earliest traces of architecture that you get to see here are from the early, I think, 1100 century. So it has a history. If I want to get into the depths of the thing, there are a lot of things that I could say. But as a architectural form, as a identity, it is the Ahom kings and the Ahom kingdom which showcase this architecture to the outside world at that point of time, probably in the early 16th, 17th centuries. So the architecture that you can see in the Upper Assam are the ones which has been motivating the people around. And the Northeast in particular has different art forms. We have different tribal art forms also, very interesting, which we have been trying to adopt, but due to, I would say, due to infrastructural difficulties, I would say, not for any other purpose, we could not do that to the extent that we have loved to do. If you talk about the tribals of Nagaland, there are so many tribes of Nagaland, so many tribal art forms of Nagaland. You go to Manipur. Manipur is such rich and rich culturally and artistically. Theatre, Manipuri dance is one of the best accepted dance forms in the world, apart from Bharatanatyam and Kathakali. So you can go on and on. Even in Arunachal, some of the tribal art forms are very interesting. Even in Assam, we have not less than hundreds of tribal groups and tribal ethnic groups, which we have never explored. So there is a huge opportunity. If anybody wants to really get into the depth of things, there are a lot of things that one can do. So art forms is there. So we can always adopt from these forms and imbibe those things into our designs and make it so different.
So this is the last question. That if you think about next 25 years of Guwahati and the India we are talking about, the non-metropolitan India, and there's a kind of huge, fast-growing thing. So this is going to make more of the global motives, or is it going to kind of, are you optimistic that it will bring somewhat of a character of the local grain and the features of?
See, it is very difficult. It is very difficult to say at this point of time because we are being constantly bombarded with ideas and thoughts which is emerging every day. Every day people's thoughts and ideas and especially with the bill form and things like that are changing. And we are exposed to the international media to the extent that it was never earlier. Every next day I get an update from the architectural design community of the projects that are happening all over the world. So the young architects which are practicing now, they are also exposed to this kind of developments. It's not that they are only seeing it digitally, some of them must have seen it physically also. So with this tremendous development, it is our responsibility as a community of designers, as a community of architects, to see that our tradition, our culture, our roots, our heritage, how best we can integrate it with the technological developments that are happening around us. Adopt those advancements, use it for the betterment of the people first, and at the same time keep the heritage, the culture, the identity of each and every region of this country intact. That's the challenge, because you always get tempted to adopt modernism, you get tempted to adopt newer materials. Again, I'll just use a small anecdote from Prague. If you've seen that dancing house by Levinsky, Daniel Levinsky's house, it is right in the heart of a cultural, or I would say a cultural center. Prague is known for its neo-Gothic and all its European architecture. But see what Daniel Levinsky has done in the middle of nowhere. So that's also a statement. But then you have to be very subtle about it. So how architects, how designers imbibe that kind of sensibility and adopt and probably create a new language for the coming millennium. That's the challenge, I believe.
How do you experience art? I mean, you have been, as you were painting, and then you're an architect. So you have this whole business of being in.
For me, art and architecture is very integrated. If you talk about my experience with art, I experience it every day. I experience it in the probably in my study table also. I experience it in the chair that has been designed for me. I experience it in the toilet that I use every day. I experience it everywhere. So if you ask me where do you see art, I see everywhere that I look around. But it is all about the sensibilities that you have developed for yourself and how that you have imbibed that into your works and how you are trying to infuse both the things and take the things forward. That's how it is.
So how did you, if you had any startling experience watching a piece of art or a design or a building or that kind of stuff, when you really feel that this is that art which actually kind of helps to kind of shake me or kind of touch me, move me.
Yeah, I was particularly moved. I had visited Bratislava, I think 4-5 years back. Bratislava is a very small town actually, from Vienna. It took us around 1.5 hours from Vienna to reach there. It's a very small town, and you could see as you walk along, it's like a cultural tour. The guide takes you, and as you walk along the alleys and their shop fronts, and you have those suddenly it opens out into a what you call the public forum kind of thing. There are artworks everywhere. You see a statue sitting just beside the chair that you are sitting on. You can see Napoleon sitting and smoking a cigar somewhere. So it's like you are into an art. So I was so impressed. Man, it was so thrilling. I mean, you feel ki you want to really stay in that place forever. So it is something like the people has really embraced art and they have made it a part of their daily lives. So that is what excites me. I think simplifying things, making things simple or out of a very complicated assignment is some virtue which not many would possess. I think I have really learned a lot from that particular aspect.
Thank you so much, Amitabh. This was a great conversation, and I think it's
Thank
very
you
helpful.
so much for giving me this opportunity also.
Thank you.
Thank you.